Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lake County. I'm Chris Cleveland. I'm your service leader this morning, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm joined today with Reverend Cynthia Snavely in person and our expressive pianist. Let's give her a hand. Terry. And helping us today with tech are Betsy, Dustin, and Doug. I encourage you to read your weekly bulletin and your monthly communicator, and be sure and open the attachment to the weekly bulletin, and you'll see all the things going on this week and see the links to where they are and if they're on Zoom and so on. Next week, Reverend Snavely will be attending a UU Transitions Ministers Retreat from 11 a.m. through the evening each day and will be less available. So if there is an emergency, call or text her because she may not be looking at her emails. And she doesn't actually start till in the afternoon on Monday, so she will still be doing her Monday discussion with the minister, her open discussion at noon tomorrow, which is on Zoom and available to both churches. Next Sunday, the UUCLC discussion group and service will be held at Trout Lake Nature Center. So be sure and look in your bulletin to find specific directions and the code to get in and the whole bit. It will be, the Social Justice Committee has organized this program, and so you can choose, for the discussion group, you can choose Tai Chi outside under the trees, gentle chair yoga inside, browsing the museums, walking the trails. And at 11 o'clock inside, there will be an Honor Earth service with Dr. Beverly Ward, who we have had here before and also spoke at the Eco Expo. And that will be at 12 o'clock. After her service, there will be a picnic. Bring your own sandwich, and then they will furnish sweets and beverages. So it'll be a whole morning of fun, outdoors, and community. So let's have a great turnout for that. You may have noticed the cart of books in the narthex or lobby. Those are to take whatever you want. We're trying to clear out our library to make some more room for other displays. So please help us out, and if you're considering grabbing a book, grab it. And you may have noticed, or you may not have, between our two parking lots, we have a century plant, and it is starting to bloom. It's sending up its shoots. So take a look at that as you exit today. Next Saturday, Banks Helfich, who presented at a workshop on sustainability at the Eco Expo, and I went to that, and he is a really dynamic speaker, so I highly recommend this. Anyway, he has this 7-acre farm north of Claremont, and in which he puts sustainable ideas, sustainable farming practices into practice. That was redundant. He is inviting all UUCLC members and Tri-UU members, I suppose, on a free guided tour of his farm next Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10:30. And his farm is located at 9100 Sam's Lake Road in Claremont. And I believe that is in the bulletin also. So that's next Saturday, or will be in the bulletin, maybe. And the paint class will be starting a week from tomorrow on May 1st. And there are still a few slots in that class. It will be in person, meeting in our classroom over here on Mondays for 6 weeks. And if you are interested in taking that class on using your brain to deal with chronic pain, sign up in the narthex on the list. Okay. Are there any announcements from the floor? Guess I covered it all. There's a lot going on. And we're trying to cut down on announcements. Oh, well. So welcome everyone again. Dustin, can we greet those who are joining us on Zoom today? There they are. Give them a wave. If anyone is here for the first time and is willing to introduce yourself, please raise your hand. And when Bernie brings you the microphone, you can tell us who you are and what brought you here today. Anybody interested in doing that? Okay. Well, welcome everyone. And thank you for sharing your Sunday morning with us. We gratefully acknowledge that we are the stewards of this land that was sustainably protected by the Timucua Native peoples over 10,000 years ago, right on this land. Let us think of them today as we learn and worship together. As a welcoming congregation, I remind you that next week is International Lesbian Week of Visibility. And I bet you didn't know. I'm going to, in honor of that event, I'm going to mention a few famous lesbians that you know other things they're famous for, but I bet you didn't know that they were lesbians. So, Pulitzer Prize winning author Willa Cather, Black activist and poet Alice Dunbar Nelson, Florence Nightingale, pro golfer and Olympian Babe Dietrichson, Emily Dickinson, civil rights leader Barb Jordan, who was also the first woman to serve in the Texas legislature, Catherine Lee Bates, who composed America the Beautiful, Eleanor Roosevelt, Margaret Mead, Billie Holiday, and that's my list. So try to find a way to talk with friends about these topics this week in honor of International Lesbian Week of Visibility. And now Reverend Cynthia will offer our opening words.
20th century American writer F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote in his essay Crack Up, "Before I go on with this short history, let me make a general observation. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. One should, for example, be able to see that things are hopeless and yet be determined to make them otherwise. This philosophy fitted on to my early adult life when I saw the improbable, the implausible, often the impossible come true."
All right. We make time to light our chalice, a symbol that you use all over the world. We light this flame to ignite the sacred power of justice. We light this flame so that it may be a beacon of hope. In moments of uncertainty, fear, anxiety, and the unknown, we light this flame and are emboldened by its blaze, knowing that our strength as prophetic and powerful people is rooted in the diverse ways we answer the call of love. Sing Spirit of Leaf. Oh, I guess it's Spirit of slipping by the shadow justice and so because wings set me free, spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Our reflection today will be a practice of Tai Chi. You can practice at whatever level you wish. If you want to just close your eyes and meditate, that is fine. Or you can stand up, move into the aisles and do Tai Chi. You can do it in your chair, whatever strikes you as right for you. So it'll be 5 minutes of practice. So go wherever you wish to go. Oh, wait, did I do this wrong? Oh, I missed joys and concerns. My mistake. Just flip them? Okay. My mistake. That's okay. Great, go ahead and sit down. I apologize. Oops.
Each week, we offer time for you to share your joys and concerns by placing a stone or stones in the sand. There is a station at the front and a station at the back of the sanctuary. If you wish, you may begin silently. If anyone wishes to share aloud, raise your hand and wait for the microphone to come to you. If there is someone who hasn't been named that you hold concern for, you may name them aloud at this time. For all those named, and for those whose names are too tender to speak, we collectively hold them in the light of our compassion and the warmth of this community. Chris will now lead us in meditation and movement.
So, just relax, breathe deeply, keep your knees soft, and follow along if you wish.
I invite us all to join together in reading the covenant of this congregation. Love is the spirit of this church, and through service we live our principles. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our interlude today will be from a survivor of the Rwandan genocide, Clementine Wamaria.
Imagine being a 6-year-old girl and having to first flee your home and then your country. That is what happened to Clementine Wamaria. But here is how she settled for more. Clementine Wamaria has come home. The Botanical Garden in Berkeley, California, takes her back to the best days of her past, growing up in Rwanda.
My brother and I playing in the mango tree, or rounding up all my playmates. It's a childhood that I wish for anybody.
Her new book, The Girl Who Smiled Beads, a story of war and what comes after, begins in Clementine's childhood, much of her time spent with her beloved nanny, Mukamana.
She sang to me, she told me stories. She created stories for me when the world did not make any sense. I could just say, okay, what would make sense now?
Soon the world began to make much less sense. At just 6 years old, she didn't know it then, but a bloody conflict was growing.
I was not allowed to go outside anymore. I felt like my whole world had ended.
A mass killing campaign, today known as the Rwandan genocide, had begun. In the span of 100 days, more than 800,000 Rwandans were dead.
9 out of 10 have left. They've either ran away as refugees or they were killed in the fighting.
No longer safe in Rwanda's capital, Kigali, Clementine and her older sister Claire were sent south to live with their grandmother. One day, as killers approached, the grandmother told the girls to run. They would keep running for the next 6 years, existing in refugee camps, traveling through 7 African countries in search of safety and their humanity.
People who are stuck in this refugee camp are somebody else's project. So us walking away, we refuse to be a part of that system.
She credits her sister Claire for pushing them to settle for more.
Claire knew well that this game was now going to be a part of our narrative. We are now going to sell our soul, we're now going to sell our bodies, we're now going to sell our time to someone who's not even thinking about our lives and our imagination.
It was that persistence that helped the sisters move to the United States through a UN refugee resettlement program. Claire raised her own children in Chicago. Clementine attended school in the suburbs, living with a family who helped her transition to life in America, ultimately attending Yale. Today, she urges the world to reconsider not only how it treats people fleeing conflict, but how it labels them.
That word refugee cannot show you anything, not even the pain inside. It's empty. It's absolutely empty. No one is a refugee. Everybody's a human.
As a storyteller and human rights advocate, she speaks about the power of words and why we must choose them carefully.
Someone in power says, those over there, they don't belong.
A lesson she hopes to teach, that imagination can help you defy the longest odds and even find home again.
I'm realizing that my home, it's not a particular space, but it's more of like me. When I came to America, I did not know that truth, but because I've worked so much and to be here now, I'm free. This is freedom.
Wow, got the chills on that one. We'll be right back.
It is our tradition at UUCLC to give generously to our church, keeping in mind both its meaning in our lives and its impact on the world. There are several ways to donate listed on the screen. There's also a wooden box just outside the sanctuary in which you can donate. And thank you for your donation today. As we continue with our pledge drive for the coming year, please hear some thoughts on the meaning of this congregation, And I'm sorry, I was going to make sure I knew the correct pronunciation before the service, and I didn't do that. Susan Zingali Baird, is that correct? Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, Chris caught me really just last Sunday, asked if I'd share why I am choosing to pledge UUCLC for next year, and I said, yeah, right away. I mean, I knew I wanted to share, so. I'm pledging, for a variety of reasons. I mean, I've been a UU probably since, well, I don't know when, about 1989. So it's a big chunk of my adult life. But I think what I want to share right now is how anyone from our congregation can participate and engage in our community, specifically my interest, social justice, and environmental issues. I mean, I knew coming through that door, that there would be a social justice initiative, but I had no idea what a robust committee this is that I joined, and also the environmental piece that I'm now learning about. But, I'm a UU because that church engages me locally in my community. I want to be engaged in my local community. I want to be able to come to a service and learn about a young woman who survived Rwanda. I did not know anything about her. I learned this here. That's a component of our social justice committee. Just in the short time that I've been here, really, just this past, couple of months, I can comment that I had a chance to be in the MLK parade in Leesburg. We got to march with the Black Lives Matter flag. We had cheers from people of color that wanted to let us know that they were happy to see us and happy for us to carry that flag. I had a chance to go to Eustis, which is, I'm Grand Island, so that's pretty much my town. I got to experience an area of Eustis that I had never been to. I think maybe it's called East Side. It's predominantly Black, and we marched through a neighborhood. It was not downtown Eustis, it was not Bay Street. It was in a neighborhood that we wound through. That was the Heritage Parade that has a long history in Eustis. So these are the things that I want to do, as far as my commitment and volunteer work. And there's no question I want to give my pledge, in particular, because of the commitment UUs have, and also in particular, obviously, to UUCLC and what we've been able to accomplish and do. I'm looking forward, certainly to the June 30th, which was again part of the committee that I've been on. And also, we may be engaging in NAACP work locally, picking up trash, working together one-on-one. So we really make it an opportunity to establish a friendship with someone in our congregation that, for the most part, is different from us. So that would be really exciting and something that I'd like to definitely participate with. So that's my big pitch. Also, Henry, because I don't know when that was, Henry, but about 2 months ago, you talked about how we have money for the current interim minister, but he made it real clear we did not have money in any kind of reserve for what would happen after that interim minister leaves. And I remember that, Henry. And I've done a little bit more. I wish I could do even more, but I've done a little bit more. And I think that would be wonderful if we could all do just a little bit more. So I will read how I can pledge. You can complete a pledge card and put it in an envelope for privacy and mail it to UUCLC with our box number that's listed, or put it in a donation box at the church on Sunday, or you can send an email to the treasurer, that's Chris Higgins, and her address is, of course, on here, and you can find that, to advise of your FY24 pledge. So that's just an email you can quickly do.
letting her know what you plan to pledge for 24. We are asking you to submit your 2024 by July 1, June 2023 through June 30th of 2024. And that pledge is for that period of time, and you need to do that by May 31st. Now it sounds really complicated, what I just said. So I'm just going to let you know how I'm going to pledge. I picked up the envelope, I put for services. I indicated how much I want to give, and then handed it to Chris.
Our first musical selection will be number 17 in the Gray Hymnal, Every Night and Every Morn. Terry will play through it first because I believe we haven't sung it before. And Alexandra will lead us. Thank you. As I listened to Clementine Wamaria in the video, it struck me when she said she and her sister refused to be someone else's project. And when Megyn Kelly said Wamaria teaches that imagination can defy the longest odds. It was Clementine's sister who taught her those things. Clementine was 6 when she and her sister Claire, who was 15, were shushed out the back door by their grandmother as the rapists and killers approached. They wandered through much of continental Africa, spent time in other people's homes and in refugee camps. Clementine writes of time in one camp. I lost track of who I was. I'd become a negative, a receptacle of need. I was hungry. I was thirsty. I needed a bathroom. I needed a place to sleep. I was so confused. I just kept spinning. How did I get here where I am a nobody? We walked all this way for this? Everywhere you looked, you saw people turned to stone. If you touched them, they'd crumble to dust. So they remained still and silent, trying not to shatter. You cannot tell the story. I lost my children, husband, my whole family. I have no idea where on earth I am. staying alive was so much work. We had to wait 5 hours in line for maize and 5 hours again for beans. We had to fetch firewood. No one had matches, so just lighting a fire was a chore. You had to look for smoke, and when you saw some, you walked over there with some kindling to carry the flame back to your unit. You had to remember your unit number, not a given at age 6. You had to try to hang on to your name, though nobody cared about your name. You had to try to stay a person. You had to try not to become invisible. If you let go and fell back into the chaos, you were gone. Just a number in a unit, which also was a number. If you died, no one knew. If you got lost, no one knew. If you gave up and disintegrated inside, no one knew. I started telling people, I'm Clementine. I'm Clementine. I'm Clementine. I don't want to be lost. I'm Clementine. But what gave Clementine the fortitude in this impossible situation at age 6 to hold on to her identity, to not give up? A big part of that answer is Claire. Her big sister wasn't giving up, and Claire wasn't going to let her baby sister give up either. Clementine and Claire's story is more harrowing than most of our life stories are. But for almost all of us, what gets us through the hard points in life is often, at least in part, that someone else was there for us. About a year ago, someone I knew from an interfaith group back in Maryland called me to tell me about her son's new venture. It's called Flick Shop. They send your photos delivered as postcards to any person in any prison. It's meant to keep families and loved ones connected with their incarcerated loved ones. And it turns out that Sylvia, the person I knew from the interfaith group, was the inspiration for her son's business. On the About Us section of Flick Shop's website, their story is told. The page begins, each one of our Flick Shop postcards are filled with words of love, emojis, confessions of yearning, and some pain. They tell our story, and our founder, Marcus Bullock, knew that we needed to figure out a way to leverage this love to help end recidivism, around the globe. And then the story of Marcus and his mother is told. When Marcus was 15 years old, he was arrested and sentenced to spend 8 years in adult maximum security prisons for carjacking a man in a shopping mall parking lot. By the time he served the first 2 years, he became very dark and depressed. So his mom made a promise to him in a prison visiting room. Marcus, I'm going to write you a letter or send you a picture every day for the remaining 6 years of your sentence. Marcus says, those letters saved my life. I was able to see the world through my mother's lens, and it gave me a clear vision to what my life would look like after prison. Today, Flick Shop works hard to keep every person in every cell connected to their family members and other community resources prior to their release, just like Marcus's mom did while he was in prison. Now, not on the website, but what Sylvia told me is that some of those pictures she sent were pretty simple. A picture of Marcus's bed at home. This is your bed, it's going to be waiting for you. A picture of a fast food hamburger. You can get this to eat when you come home. The little comforts that were going to be waiting. Clementine had her sister, Marcus had his mom, and those connections made a huge difference. Groups like AA and NA know how important that other person can be. A big part of those programs is having a sponsor as you begin your journey to taming an addiction. I've never been in prison. I've never fled a genocide. But I have my own story of someone who helped me in a big step in my life. My mother said she was not going to teach my sister, brother, or I to drive. She knew she did not have the temperament for it. That was going to be my father's job. But my father drove a fuel oil delivery truck. And when we were little kids, he would often take us with him when he was going someplace that he thought we might find an interest in, like a dairy farm or something. I'm sure that is no longer legal to take your children in a fuel oil delivery truck. But I'm the oldest, so I was the first my father was to teach to drive. I got in the car, he told me to turn on the ignition, put my foot on the brake, put it into gear, and I said, "Which one's the brake?" My father had assumed I had been watching him drive the fuel oil delivery truck and knew all of this. Obviously, I was not. Once I said, "Which one's the brake?" he got out of the car, and that was the total end of lessons driving with my father. I might not have learned to drive if my grandmother had not stepped in and taken over. She taught me to drive, a task both my mother and father had given up on as impossible. Even in our storybooks, the protagonists need someone. Cinderella needs her fairy godmother. Don Quixote needs Sancho Panza. Roald Dahl's Matilda has Miss Honey. They couldn't get to the ball or tilted windmills or take revenge on Miss Trunchbull without them. The 20th century theologian, philosopher, and physician Albert Schweitzer said, "At times our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. It is those other people, the teacher who took a special interest in our learning, the favorite aunt who was there in ways our parents couldn't be, the friend who held our hand through every breakup, the coach who motivated us to do better, not just on the field, but also in life. It is those people who make the impossible possible." To return to the storybooks. Piglet sidled up to Pooh from behind. "Pooh," he whispered. "Yes, Piglet." "Nothing," said Piglet, taking Pooh's paw. "I just wanted to be sure of you." We are all Piglet, and we all need a Pooh. Fortunately, most of us have at least one, and many of us have had, and will have several. What these people do for us can be important, but even more important is simply that they are there. They are with us. The Catholic priest and writer Henry Nouwen said, "When we honestly ask ourselves which persons in our lives mean the most to us, we often find that it is those who, instead of giving advice, solutions, or cures, have chosen rather to share our pain and touch our wounds with a warm and tender hand. The friend who can be silent with us in a moment of despair or confusion, who can stay with us in an hour of grief and bereavement, who can tolerate not knowing, not curing, not healing, and face with us the reality of our powerlessness. That is a friend who cares." What we thought was impossible becomes possible when we are not alone. As I come toward the end, I've learned a few years ago the lyrics from a Black gospel song by David Frazier. I need you, you need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me, agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It's God's will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. I pray for you. You pray for me. I love you. I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you. I need you to survive. It is God's will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. Now, according to the Christian apostle Paul, it is we human beings who are God's body. When someone in that body needs us to survive, we can and we will. Even the impossible becomes possible with them by our side. May we offer thanks today for each and every one of those people who have enabled us to be where we are today. It is they who have made our impossibles possible. Our closing hymn is number 95 in the gray hymnal, There's More Love Somewhere. Robert Goddard, 20th century American engineer, professor, and physicist and inventor, said, "It's difficult to say what is impossible, for the dream of yesterday is the hope of today and the reality of tomorrow."
Please rise as we say our chalice extinguishing words together, followed by the singing of Weave to end our service. And during Weave, you may hold hands with you wish, if you wish, or just send energy to your neighbors without touching. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We must together in unity and love. We must together. We must together in love. That ends our service. Join us in the social hall.